Is capitalism's suffocating impact on your creativity and imagination keeping you trapped in the pursuit of a false version of happiness and success? I'm not talking about your writing, drawing, and singing abilities, which are wonderful things, but your ability to conceptualize, envision, and lead a life beyond the toxic mainstream version that prioritizes money and a career above all else. Supposedly, capitalism encourages imagination and innovation, but as I look around and see the growing number of bland and characterless strip malls, chain hotels, and fast food restaurants, it sure seems like capitalism more often stifles our creativity and limits our options, making it harder for us to look beyond it and imagine that something else is possible. Maybe you never think about the impact of capitalism on your beautiful imagination and creativity. Well, I do a lot. So this quote by Richard Sennett really struck me. Modern capitalism works by colonizing people's imagination of what's possible. And how about this quote from poet Drew Dellinger? If we had more imagination, we'd have less capitalism. Unfortunately, we've collectively fallen into the "but there's no alternative" trap. That's the message we're continually and subtly exposed to through social media, advertising, the news, and most of the people in our lives. We can more easily conceive the end of the world than the end of capitalism. As a result, most of us stay blindly pursuing society's view of success and miserably trapped on the earn, spend, and repeat hamster wheel of capitalism, never questioning if another alternative is possible. And since these systemic narratives limit our imaginations, we overlook the myriad ways we can lead our lives in the here and now that would do a lot less to support and uphold those harmful elements of capitalism, and simultaneously make our lives a lot more enjoyable, meaningful, and resilient. So in that spirit, I want to share 4 things you can do to rewire your brain to be more open to solarpunk, post-capitalist, and regenerative solutions that will make your life a lot better today and save you money, keeping more of it out of that destructive corporate economy. Number 1, design your life to encourage creative solutions and imagination. Part of our capitalist conditioning includes being programmed to think the only way you can access the things you want and need is by reaching for your wallet or clicking that buy now button. Not only does that take money away from you and your community, sending it off to those greedy billionaires and corporations, it robs you of the satisfaction of coming up with more creative and effective solutions for yourself. The more you can find the time or make the effort to solve your situation without buying a product or service, the more money you save and the better you feel. That's because there's a great deal of joy that accompanies that aha moment. According to this article in Medical Express, when people solve a puzzle through a flash of insight, the mood-enhancing substance dopamine is released and deep brain structures are activated. I think Jacob Lund Fisker from Early Retirement Extreme made a great point in an interview when he noted, spending money mainly serves to resolve friction from inefficient lifestyle design. We consider spending money a failure to solve our problems by smarter means. I'd also add that always spending money makes our lives much more transactional and isolated. And it definitely stifles instead of nourishes our creativity and imagination. Later in that same interview, Jacob pointed out there are just limits to the insight, experience, knowledge, etc. that it's possible to acquire with money. And as he put it, you can't pay someone for the experience of completing a marathon. Now I realize there can be some privilege here in even having the time and space in your life to build the skills, knowledge, and access to resources that are necessary to so easily solve your problems by those smarter means. But that doesn't mean they're not worth pursuing. Since I know that being able to afford to pay rent or buy a house is one of the major sources of stress and expense in people's lives that keeps you from being able to do this, I created a Creative Paths to Homeownership and Housing Toolkit as part of my Personal Economy Makeover course, and I've included a link to that free toolkit in the description below. It won't help you buy your dream house in a high cost of living area, but it just might open your mind to some alternative ways to buy a house or just find a place to live. When it comes to these more creative solutions, you can start small. Even just getting in the habit of searching online for DIY solutions when you need something. That's what I did when I needed QR code stands to vend my book, Growing Free. I discovered that instead of spending money on new plastic ones, My boyfriend could help me make some from wood that he had rescued from the side of the road, along with some clips that I had rescued from a law firm when it was going out of business. Building useful skills and befriending people with those skills is also valuable. Even just developing the inclination to check out YouTube University, like so many others are doing, and learning how to make simple repairs when their appliances or other things break, or to make things when you need them, can help move you along this path. I find it helpful to hang out with my creative and imaginative friends and in creative, whimsical places. Spending time with these people and in these places expands my imagination, and it prompts me to incorporate more creative solutions into my own life. Number 2, get more from what you've already got. For someone who is always looking for ways to further open my mind and eyes to the wealth, abundance, and resources already in my grasp, the book Stretch, Unlock the Power of Less and Achieve More Than You Ever Imagined by Scott Sonnenschein provided fantastic food for thought. The central organizing idea of the book is that people tend to be either stretchers or chasers. Chasers, often motivated by a bit of keeping up with the Joneses, focus on acquiring resources and overlook what they already have at hand. They tend to get caught up in functional fixedness, presuming that an item is limited to a certain function, and come to believe that having more resources leads to better results. As a result, they frequently get caught up in mindless accumulation and trapped in a job and lifestyle that leave them highly dissatisfied. Their situation is further aggravated by the fact that all of that energy and time they put into accumulating more can end up becoming a distraction from actually getting things done. Stretchers, on the other hand, recognize that usually better use of resources leads to better results. Typically, stretchers are better than chasers at viewing resources as capable than more than their primary use. As the book Stretch underscores, almost anything, tangible or intangible, has the potential to be a resource. But to become anything of value requires action. Stretchers more easily see the potential for beauty and usefulness where others don't, and then take the required action to turn previously overlooked items into something of value. Now, stretching comes more easily to some. I'm actually a stretcher in training, and I'm learning a lot from my boyfriend Albert. He was the one that recognized the mutually beneficial opportunity when a friend of ours who runs the Florida Fruit Club needed a place to store his inventory and supplies. It was Albert who remembered the unused space in my garage. So for several years, I ended up letting the team store their stuff there, and in exchange, I received free tropical fruit, farm fresh eggs, and semi-regular massages. Now on to my next and related idea. Number 3, perceive things differently. The more you can overcome functional fixedness and perceive things in new ways, the more you can free your life and mind from capitalism. One personal example I can share is the time that I needed a new shower curtain rod, but didn't want to buy a new plastic or metal one that would eventually end up in a landfill. But I was having trouble finding a used one. And then one day I looked out at that clump of slender bamboo in my yard with fresh eyes and recognized my source of free, renewable, and sustainable shower curtain rods. I definitely experienced that aha dopamine hit. But it all starts with what you even perceive as wealth. I'm not saying that money or financial capital doesn't play an important role in our lives, but it is only one form of wealth in your life. Cultivating multiple forms of capital makes us far less fragile and much more content than when we rely on money alone. When we compound the magic of accessing multiple forms of capital with the power of thinking in stocks and flows, we really take things to the next level. Gaia's Garden author Toby Hemingway used his neighbor's wood pile to explain this concept. The neighbor had stockpiled enough wood to last 10 or 15 years, and it took up a good bit of space in his neighbor's yard. Hemingway noted that any wood still in the pile after 5 years would begin to break down and not heat as well when it was eventually used. So it was becoming an inferior product while it aged in that pile. By accumulating such a large pile of wood, the neighbor was only focused on his stock of wood. In essence, he was hoarding wood, losing sight of the flow of wood that was continually available to him in the surrounding forest. As a culture, we tend to focus more on stocks, which has led to many of us becoming stuck in a scarcity and functional fixedness mindset. We don't have faith in the flows. nor do we give ourselves the time and opportunity to look at things deeply and clearly enough to recognize them as flows. We are much more likely to lose sight of those flows and focus only on the stocks. However, if we could start emphasizing those flows over stocks or hoarding, it would lead to a much more equitable, sustainable, and ethical approach to distributing our resources. I was able to unlock an endless flow of shower curtain rods once I could see them in that clump of bamboo. Number 4, expose yourself to more moneyless options. I'm not suggesting you don't need money or that we should all stop spending it. But it doesn't always need to be your first instinct to reach for it when you want something. There are tremendous benefits to be gained in thinking beyond the constructs of capitalism. As Heather Jo Flores, author of Food Not Lawns, once noted, before you go out and spend your hard-earned money on resources you think you need, try to innovate something that will fulfill the same function. Your imagination is renewable, easy to find, and free. Even if you don't have all the tools, supplies, and creativity to make what you need, you can look or ask for what you need in your local Buy Nothing group, or search for it in Facebook Marketplace free section, or just let the people in your network know what you need. Albert did that when he needed an ice cream maker for a class he was teaching, and 3 people offered him ice cream makers they were no longer using. And always be on the lookout for local swap meets. They're great opportunities to build community, connect with like-minded people, save money, and rehome still useful items. Over the years, I've taken great inspiration from people who have led or are leading moneyless lives, like Danielle Suelo in the US, Heide Marie Schwärmer in Germany, Joe Nemeth in Australia, and Mark Boyle in the UK. There are plenty of books, articles, and videos out there you can find about them if you want to learn more about that lifestyle. In order for us to evolve that better solarpunk, post-capitalist, regenerative world we know is possible, more of us need to unleash our imaginations to create that future. So why not start by tapping your imagination more frequently so you spend less money? It's good for you, your community, and the planet. And it directs a lot less of your money out into that destructive corporate economy that works for those billionaires and corporations, not you and me. And if you enjoyed this one, you may enjoy watching this video next. So bye for now. Thanks for joining me.